Welcome back to our last self-mastery workshop in 2022. Today is basically the topic that we work to, namely how to master our choices, how to make our unconscious into conscious choices. And as you know, I am conducting these workshops for the Sacred Self-Healing community once a month. There is a substantial archive of those kind of deeper healing and self-transformation workshops in the forum. Please don't forget that. There's over 375 workshop recordings. Yeah, so quite a few hours that you can spend with these topics and going really deep into what it means to heal, what it means to align ourselves to our spiritual thinking and expressing, and some of these psychological topics that come up along the way. So in this workshop, we will summarize all the things that we have already investigated in the previous 10 workshops here this year, called Karmic Manifestation Series, Self-Mastery as the subtopic here for 2022. Next year, 23, will be a new topic. Here we will dive deeper into the differences between our will, our intention, and our choice, what the differences are. So again, an exercise in discernment. We will discuss the difference between intention and intentiveness, as this then comes up as soon as we become more aware of the barriers of making conscious choices. And then we will also illuminate how we can better express and embody our intentions, our good intentions, what these greater goals, values, and also visions for us are. We're going to illuminate the cosmological perspective just briefly and basically conclude the karmic perspective here, why this is part of a karmic manifestation series, the bigger circle, so to speak, and well, go hopefully in the end into these practical aspects of living as a conscious self. So again, welcome to all of you Sacred Self-Healing members. Thank you for checking in and thank you for watching this recording. So in the kickoff for our self-mastery series in January last year, we talked about spiritual self-mastery and what this even is. So this is a chart that I showed there, and I introduced, the principles of self-mastery to you guys. We have now basically gone the whole circle. We have investigated what it entails to master our thinking. There are 2 workshops and a third one in which we practiced it. Then we have illuminated the aspects that play into mastering our emotions. Again, 2 lecture-style workshops and 1 practice workshops. Today, we're going to talk about mastering our expressions, higher goals, and our will, basically as all in one, because they all require one key element, and that is discernment. So discernment is the key for us to access our higher thinking, our higher perceiving, and also with it, our higher expressing. You see here on the right, that harmonizing it all basically leads to an overall improvement in life, an holistic improvement. And there are some keys to that, which, by the way, I'm currently discussing in detail in the daily empowerment messages that you can sign up for to receive in your email. This is a recording, a video recording with a brief transcript going into the deeper aspects of this. So self-mastery ultimately is about making choices. We've discussed this many times, and here, seen from an energetic perspective, choices have to do with the energetic state. We investigated this the last 3 months. The energetic state we find ourselves in when we make a choice. And depending on what state of energy we're in, reminder here, Hawkins' scale of consciousness that we use as roadmap for that. It determines the options that we see. It determines, sort of well, basically the choices that we have. And so the lower our energetic state, the fewer choices we will see we have, and with it, we will basically decrease the quality of our choices. So the higher our energetic state at the time, the more options we see, the more choices we have. And that typically then also leads to making better choices. The definition here that illuminates this direct connection between choices and energy is that all choices affect our personal energy, but not just based on their outcome, but more importantly, listen, based on the energy and inner alignment at the moment of making that choice. So basically what this says is that yes, our choices do affect how we feel, how our life turns out, how our circumstances develop, and how we feel about this, like whether we think it was a good choice or not, and based on how it makes us feel. But the more important aspect is the step before we make a choice, because that is the one that sets up our energy to making a choices. And so many times we see this in our life, that we're making choices that seem to be the right choices at the time, but based on a very limited set of options. And so in the moment, we cannot see what we cannot see, right? So the whole process of making ourselves more aware of this is to increase the number of options that we have, the choices that we have, by learning techniques and disciplines that help us to question our state of energy, and with it then, hopefully know how to make shifts so that we can see more options. So from an energetic viewpoint, a healthy choice has a higher vibratory rate or a higher vibration than an unhealthy choice. But we can't make higher vibratory choices when we are in a lower vibratory state. So we have to shift, we have to change our energetic state first. This is what we've learned here in these last 10 months. The state of our personal energy is the sum of our choices. And here you can see how this closes the circle again, because ultimately then the quality of our choices produces, creates circumstances, a reality that we find ourselves in that then affects our energy. And our energy is then the one that affects our future choices. Okay, so the point being here is that you understand this connection. And this is also the dilemma, because obviously, we cannot see what we cannot see. So how do we know what we're seeing, if what we're seeing is limited, if it is coming from a place, for example, lower vibratory place would be fear-based, if it's fear-based, or if it's judgment-based, or pride-based, or anger-based, or if it comes from a place of higher values. And this is then where we need to learn to look a little closer at what our values are and how they're composed. And there's a will, and then there's an intention, and then there's a choice. These are not the same things. The will is generally our willingness. This is what you consciously or unconsciously desire to manifest. I want this, I want that, I want to be happy, I want to feel fulfilled, I want to have a great relationship, I want to have lots of money. Basically, just to summarize this for you, the way the human ego is constructed, the will isn't free until the person actually has stepped out of unconscious choices. So for as long as a person is unconscious, which is the majority of people on this planet, it's determined by the ego, and the ego wills these two things that I always recite. It wants the absence of pain and the presence of pleasure. So it will avoid anything that brings pain, and it will seek anything that brings gratification. Now that's just part of our human fail-safe. We've discussed this many times. And this is where we need to be a little more conscientious, because it is normal to have that as an impulse. Yeah, who likes pain? Nobody does. All right, so the first impulse will always be like, oh, no, 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 this is hard, this is tedious, this is a lot of work, this is potentially harmful, this could bring pain. And likewise, when we see something very tempting, very, oh, great, this could be the way to getting more money, or to getting more fame, or to getting more friends, or whatever. Yeah, the fulfillment of some kind of pleasures, but more on a short-term level. Intention supersedes that. Intention is something that we, as you can feel when you think, as you can find out when you feel into it, it's like you have to formulate an intention. It's a little more conscious. Yeah, the intention can be, that you want to be a good person, say, or that you want to, whatever, you fill in the blank. Okay, that is what you believe, what you think you desire. Your will, that there's a duality of your will, yeah, is the one that is very dominant at a certain moment. I like differentiating will as will and willingness. So the higher version, the higher expression of will is actually the willingness. Yeah, and when you can get your willingness and your intention together, then you basically making a step into more freedom of deciding, okay, what can lead you to your intention. Yeah, so the ego wills the absence of pain and the presence of pleasure, but your intention is to be, let's say, I'm just saying this now without further investigating this here, a conscious or an awakened soul self. Now, these two things do not go together. So there's a duality there. So that one has to be uncovered. You have to uncover that there is an inner conflict or contradiction in you to better understand why it's sometimes so hard for you to follow your intention. Yeah, so this here you see why we all get caught in this contradiction in ourselves. And ultimately, guys, this is very, very important. The amount of contradictions and inner conflicts that you have, basically the incongruences that you have, is what determines your energy. The more conflicts you have, the less energy you have, because there's a lot of energy that is being wasted, that is being consumed with entertaining this inner battle. Yeah, let's say you want to lose weight, that's your intention, okay? And then you stand in front of a candy store or whatever, you get invited to a dinner, and then you lose that intention because your current, sort of short-term will is, to, the presence of pleasure, which isn't bad. It's just that you have to understand that, if you put yourself into a place such as, going to dinner with lots of people and everybody's eating, and it's part of that social habit, contract, and ceremony. All right, you need to really come in with a higher version of your intention. You need to come in with the willingness to either say, okay, for tonight, I'm going to skip that, my intention, because I know it's, difficult to manifest this. And my higher intention in that moment, going out with friends for dinner, would be to enjoy the dinner with my friends. Something like that. Yeah, I don't want to go deeper into this, but the point here that I'm trying to make is that if you really want to understand how you make choices, okay, then you need to become more aware of your intentions and your desires and your will and how they're conflicting with another. And that is then a way out. It's the key out of that inner contradiction. Yeah, because you become more honest with yourself and can at times consciously choose, for example, to override it, or to shift your priorities, something like that. The contradictions that we harbor inside, they all come from basically a form of unconscious self-deceit. It's where we're telling ourselves a story that doesn't match up with our intention. Yeah, and that's what we need to uncover. And the tool to uncover that is discernment. Discernment allows you to consciously form an inner roadmap of differentiating and deciding which desires and intentions to follow, and also how to express them. So summarizing here as this sort of preface, our choices are the result of our conscious discernment process. If there is no conscious discernment process, then you will make choices that do not match up with yourself, with your intentions, with your, true desires. And that is then what creates, this endless cycle of, bad choices. Yeah, there's something that isn't matching up. And this is fundamentally, why we're here. Yeah, we want to increase our levels of self-awareness, and with it also the levels of consciousness, which then allow us to shift our energy into a higher state. But, and this is something that many people disregard or don't fully understand, these different levels of self-awareness, the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic self level that you have, body, mind, heart, and soul, they are not separable from another. They're not separable from another, which means permanent, and lasting, say, fulfillment of your desires, happiness, peace, health, abundance can only be accomplished if you address this choice-making process, if you address the discernment process on all these levels. And the things that are in our way when we want to actively learn how to make more conscious choices, which is what we call self-transformation and self-healing. You know this is what transCODES stands for, are, these fundamental here in the gray area, things that we would call automatism or ego drives. Yeah, they have different hierarchies. So on the most fundamental level here, it is our survival and our instincts and our drive. This is in the unconscious, guys. This is completely unconscious. Yeah, then on the second hierarchy, which we experience as emotional, psychological, we have our intuition, our passion, and a different kind of desires, the desire to, to belong, the fundamental desires, very basic desire to connect with others. Then on a mental level, we form, in the course of our lives, we form these constructs, and they then, form intentions, conscious or unconscious. Yeah, they also form the confidence around this. Yeah, so there's an internal process when we have an intention that kind of match or tries to match up, if it's even possible. Yeah, so the confidence comes from a higher degree of inner congruence. But it's not quite yet what is needed to reach this sort of holistic happiness. This is then, something that we call the spiritual aspect. It's more abstract in our journey because we also have something like unconscious beliefs. We have something like karma, which is what most people, that are on the spiritual path, discover first. And let me see a hand sign here. I hope that you guys are all familiar with the raise your hand function. Who of you has discovered karmic aspects in your journey that keep popping up as patterns that you were previously unaware of? And it really made a difference for you, like to recognize, for example, something like family karma, things that are inherited down from one generation to the next, or collective tribal karma, like what you see as your nation or your tribe, to go through collectively, or even the larger sort of human collective karma, and then karmic relationships. Yeah, that's well, I'm surprised it's less than half. Okay, roughly half of you. Yeah, so this is the component here that is absolutely needed to understand why it's sometimes so hard for us to follow through with our intentions. Because there can be deeper spiritual aspects, also, purpose, beliefs in regards to like God or higher power that can either supersede, override, or also block us. There's something like that comes as like not feeling that we're worthy or that we deserve something. Who of you has encountered something like that? That there's like a fundamental fear in you that you're not worthy of, say, higher, spiritual evolvement. Yeah, that's more, and that's very, very common for someone who spiritually awakens, because you start becoming more aware of these things. Yeah, and then the even higher hierarchy to this is, when we consciously work with, the meaning of things, and the development, the evolution of our consciousness. That's when we realize, how all these things are connected. That's when we realize, how we can break through these barriers, how we can break through karma, how we can break through, like our 3D ego identity stuff. Yeah, how we can break through our need to belong, and people pleasing, and codependency, which is on the level 2, and how we can, overcome repetitive issues in regards to our survival, money, maybe abundance, and so forth, health issues. The greater goal, though, and that is important to understand, is to get into a place where you can make conscious choices that basically fulfill or increase the quality, increase the energy in all 5 of your basic aspects of selves, dimensions of selves. That's really, really important. Yeah, so a conscious choice is a choice that allows you to increase your energy. And with that, yeah, also to increase the quality of your choices. So let's have a little discussion here, guys. Yeah, what have you found to influence your choices against your better intention or will? Basically, what have you found out to be unconscious things that rule or supersede or sometimes override your good intentions?
Hello?
Hi.
Jona, hello.
Hey,
It's been so
Tom.
long.
How are you?
I'm really well. I kind of just woke up for this now, so it's perfect timing. I am working through some really deep layers of lucid dreaming, and it's showing me how I victimize myself through seeing myself in family members' trauma through
Okay.
specific events. And what's showing up for me, especially in the Jewish community, the gay and all that, is that I tried to make myself fit in, and that became more unconscious than me just being able to be myself. So it made me more uncomfortable, and by bringing out my
Well,
insecurity.
uncomfortable is mild. I mean, before you came, I just talked about the severity of this contradiction in us. Yeah, if we have 2 contradicting intentions, basically. Yeah, if we want to bring ourselves into our self-expression, into a higher expression, and on one hand, and on the other hand, we try to fit in, yeah, with communities or tribes or whatever. Yeah, that is a contradiction. So how that creates this inner conflict, and with it lowers our energy, and with it also then lowers our options and choices. So the reason why we make bad choices in the end is because our energy was so low that we couldn't even see that there were other options. And that the one that you just mentioned, the way you see yourself, seeing yourself as a victim, identifying with, like some of the family karma, some of the tribal karma that we all have, and trying to fit in. Those are 3 fundamentally different intentions. Yeah.
Wow.
And it leads to, basically, like a deadlock inside of yourself. Yeah. So this
Yes.
is exactly why we talked, you know, before you came, we talked about the power of discernment and what that actually helps us with. Yeah, and how, you know, we need to become more aware of the difference between our will, our intention, and our choices. Those are three different things. Yeah, and
Got it.
our job is
That's,
to
yeah.
make every choice conscious, because if you running by unconscious things, yeah, if you know, for example, people pleasing, or, you know, trying to fit in, right? There's two different things that are expressed with this. Investigate this. Trying to fit in, I would say that is a very, very normal human need. Yeah, trying to belong somewhere. But is the group or the people that you want to fit in with, that you want to belong to, are they up to par? Are they representing the same values as you do? No. Why do you keep trying that? You're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
You see yourself as a victim, okay, right? And some of us are victims. There is, you know, something like actual victimhood. Nobody chooses to be a victim. Yeah. But why is that something that you recognize as a repetitive scene? And, you know,
To
what
not
is the
own
message
my
you're getting out of it?
to not own my own life force, which is something that,
Okay.
yeah. And the thing is, I'm meeting incredible people. I'm just not taking on their stuff. I'm listening, and I'm like, gosh, my life wasn't so bad. This wasn't so bad, you know. And they're in it, and I'm like, I'm directing myself out of it by, you know, just being me and sharing without directly sharing. And it's creating something. I don't want to say force field. That's a little bit of a woo-woo term, but it is creating a different field for me to play in. And I don't necessarily partake in what they're doing, but I understand from my past self why they're doing it. And I'm able to go into it without personalizing it too much in the past. It's a
Look,
little bit,
I
yeah,
have a very important message for you, Sean, and everybody else listening.
yeah,
And this is the fundamental mistake that we all make when it comes to trying to fit in. You have to investigate the values of the people that you are interacting with, and if they match up with your values. And if they don't, you forced to either giving up parts of your identity and pretending, yeah, or to suffer. So what we are trying to do is bring our, and I'm being nice now, I'm calling this higher values, okay? I'm assuming that all of you guys have higher values.
yes,
We're trying to bring our higher values into expression, but we keep trying to do this with the wrong people. The message
yes,
is stop doing it. Stop
yes,
trying to fit in with people that have
yes.
fundamentally different values than you do. Why? There is nothing there for you that could help you to grow or to learn or to evolve. Nothing. And it sounds a bit harsh when you say it that way, but there's a fundamental truth in that.
It's not that harsh, Jona, because it's what's been happening for me, and I've been saying, no, this doesn't work for me. That's something that I've already done. Got the t-shirt, and then there's another choice that comes up. And they keep coming up, but it's a good thing. It's like, wow. And I'm feeling more
The,
alive.
the trick is to let go of trying to fit in without judgment, without vilifying the others, without degrading the others, and, you know, to really do this in love. Coming from a place of really trying to make the best choices for yourself. Just not make other people's choices bad. This is where we run into our own ego trap. Okay, because we make a bad experience, and then we, you know, sort of make the others responsible. And right there is the thing. If you look at your victimization story, yeah, your victim story, okay,
Yeah.
really, I could also say to you, well, why do you keep choosing to trying, you know, to try to belong to something that isn't up to your values? Wasn't that your choice? I mean, they were
Yes.
just what they did, okay?
Yeah.
And obviously when we're children, we can't see that, we don't know that. So this is part of our maturing process. Yeah, so we recognize, okay, you know, and this can, you know, This can be pertaining our family of origin, yeah, our bio family, our tribe, our social group, our church group, or whatever. You can, you can apply this to anything, or work colleagues and so forth, and relationship partners. Those are all choices that we make. The only thing that we can't choose is the family of origin, yeah, and this sort of tribal karmic aspect that we come into this world with. And for most of us, to identify this is the fundamental roadmap for your own self-transformation and healing in this lifetime. Because and these are all aspects that your higher self chose for you before you came to this earth. It picked the parents and the groups and the people and all these kind of things for you, so that you could consciously liberate yourself from it and grow out of it. There's no victimhood. There's no victimhood in that. There's just, there's a long way and there's a short way. This is the daily empowerment number 14. Okay, the long way is unconscious. That's where we learn through repetition, like kids. Okay, yeah, karma.
Yep.
Constant repetition until we finally get it, until the pain of staying where we're at becomes so great that we finally take charge, finally, sort of overcome our fear of the unknown. The short way, the short way is to actively step into that and to say, well, wait, nothing's matching up here in my life. Or maybe it's matching up here and there, but not in the bigger picture. So what is the piece here that is contradicting? Where is this contradicting? A lot of people want wealth and money and da-da-da. They spend all their time, focusing on that. And then they're 50 and they complain that they had bad relationships and never really, and then I asked them, well, how much time, how much energy did you actually spend with trying to improve, becoming a good partner, and trying to improve relationships with other people throughout the last 50 years? Well, not much. Okay, where's the victimhood in that? There's a choice. It's an unconscious choice, for sure. But that's, really what discernment is all about, to make this more conscious. So what are our choices? If we look at our choices, maybe 90% of them are unconscious. It's fine. But you can choose to make them conscious. Why do I keep choosing, getting into this place with these kind of people, or with this kind of work, or with this kind of, financial poverty, or, like whatever the circumstances are. And yes, there is trauma, and yes, there are things that make it even harder for us. But let me tell you, all of you, that it is the traumatized humans with the bigger pain who step into this conscious transformation faster, who have a faster and much more effective journey, because the presence of the pain forces them to heal and to self-transform. This is a message of hope. Yeah, so thank you, Sean. Sorry for cutting you a little short.
No.
Yeah, you nailed it right there. It is the way you see yourself in life, and that is, you see yourself as a victim. Okay, you see your life as something that happens to you, and all you try is really to survive your life. And right there, is to prove that your choices are mostly unconscious. Because if that's how you see your life, that means you haven't stepped into that yet. You haven't stepped into saying, okay, you know what? Yeah, some of the things in my life, they suck. All right, that's going to be, sort of bit by bit, step by step work. Okay, but I'm choosing to no longer repeat the same stuff over and over again. So I need to change something. That is the power that we all have. And that power gets activated by our consciousness, by stepping into truth, the truth with ourselves, the truth with others, and obviously also recognizing that love, like not the romantic love, but the love for life, the love for, you know, all that we can express here in this lifetime. And with it, then the freedom that comes out of that, that those are the ones that we need to follow as the fundamental needs. The fundamental needs is to have more truth, more love, and more freedom in life, regardless of what our ego says. That's imprinted. That's our divine template. And that's why we need the spiritual component in that contemplation, because without that, we can't see that. Without that, we think that the absence of pain and the presence of pleasure, and perhaps, you know, a lot of money are the fundamental needs that we have. And that's why it's so difficult sometimes to become more aware of it, because without this deeper spiritual, without allowing that, the deeper spiritual, I'm not talking about lucid dreaming, not talking about transcendental meditation or plant medicines or anything like that. I'm talking about like, hey, hang on, let's look at the bigger picture here. What am I? Okay, I'm a soul with a body and not a body with a soul. We can all feel that. And if that is so, then let me restructure my values, my intentions, my life's expressions, and with it, the choices. And that's when this self-transformation happens, and it happens on all levels of self simultaneously. That's when we know that we're on the right track. Yeah, because it begins to harmonize.
Feel this, Jona. I can feel all this. So, I mean, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, you know, if we still struggle, even though we've intellectually understood it all, then it comes down to, and please forgive me, you know, if this sounds a little harsh, but then it comes down to discipline. Then it's a problem with laziness. Yeah, and laziness, yeah, as a concept, yeah, which includes blind trust, blind faith, you know, not really following through with our own thoughts and our own feelings. Yeah, that then drives us into the unconscious again. It drives us back into karma. So it's okay, we can choose to be lazy and not actively do anything about it, but then we can't really complain about it either. Because we have ego and we have karma as a failsafe. So if we don't choose to become conscious, then our life will be a karmic undertaking, a karmic journey. That is the law. There will always be a little growth, so we can't prevent ourselves from evolving. It's our divine nature. But how we evolve, through constant repetition, yeah, and, you know, struggle and pain, or through taking charge, becoming accountable, owning our journey, becoming responsible. That is up to each and every one of us. That choice can only be made, and that's the only choice that we need to master. All
That's
other choices come from that. Thank you, Sean. Let's give some others the space here. Sorry,
Of course, no,
I'm on a roll.
Go for it.
So, okay, we've had victimhood, the way we see ourselves, trying to fit in, and you know, some of these very common problems that can override our better intentions. What are some other things that you found to influence your choices, for the better or worse?
Jona, I found one that I actually saw in myself was that I was, of course, wanting to financially be in a stable place, but I'd also made the decision that I had to pay attention to my healing, my physical healing, because the things had just gotten to such a point. And okay, of course, I would be in this conflict, trying to work, doing this, doing that. But then I noticed, one day, I remember the day going, Janet, you are focusing on your physical healing. You've made that choice. So obviously some things aren't going to be getting your full attention. And that was very liberating at that moment.
Exactly. That is a conscious choice. And it is I want to say good choice. Yeah, because you see, these are hierarchies here. Yeah, without the lower ones, okay, the higher ones can't express. Okay, without your physical healing, your emotions, your thoughts, and your spiritual isn't in balance. Okay, so the physical needs to be in balance first. Yeah, we have to take care of survival stuff. We have to take care of financial stability. Now, we need to be conscious about how we define financial stability. Yeah, so sometimes we can be off there a little bit. Yeah, what is financial stability for you and what is financial stability for another can be very, very different. That we need to discern. Yeah, some people feel financially stable when they have at least $1 million on their bank account, and go into panic if they have less than $1 million on their bank account. Okay, and some people are happy with having $200-300 on their bank account, and that's financial stable. So we need to just be very clear about when we reach stability. Like, we have to define that so that we know when it's time to, continue and take care of these higher hierarchies of needs. So obviously physical healing always needs to precede, always needs to have priority. It always
Yeah, I
needs.
had there was a gift that learning that a physical change could be one of the biggest ways to shift overall energies, obviously if it's beneficial. And also when I made that choice, I could see myself, also fortunately with the insights to have more compassion for myself overall. Then those two
Yeah.
things weren't divided. And that compassion opened up for me to be able to accept financial things I had to do and work and things like
Yeah.
that. And of course,
Compromises.
yeah,
But
and that's
those
going
are
to help the
conscious.
healing.
Those are conscious compromises. So conscious compromises work. We just have to keep, looking at them, because as times change, as we change, compromises that were okay for us last year may not be okay for us
Yeah.
now anymore. So it's a constant improvement process. Yeah. The only big danger with the physical is, and those of you who experience physical challenges know this. If you focus on the physical alone, all right, then that can also lead to other issues. So again, we consist, or we function on all these levels at the same time. Yeah, and sometimes also the cause for our physical problems need to be investigated, because a lot of times, guys, the cause for our physical problems lies in the spiritual, or in the mental, or in the emotional, or all of the above. This is important. That's where the energetic perspective comes in, because the energetic perspective allows us to see that and then to recognize where we need to address that. So the overall goal may be you want to improve your physical, not just, your body, but also your physical condition, like, your physical circumstances. Yeah. But, what are the things that are working against that? For example, addictions work against that. And not just substance addictions, also behavioral addictions, such as codependency, such as people pleasing. Yeah. Then we have attachment issues that are here in the emotional, psychological, yeah, trauma. Those are major contributors to physical unwellness, which means, we won't be able to really permanently address our physical well-being unless we include the emotional, psychological, and mental, and often also the spiritual. Yeah, so addictions, for example, are often spiritual sicknesses, emotional and spiritual sicknesses. Anxiety and depression are often they're mental sicknesses. So this is very important to understand, that we do need to listen to our body, but we can't see our body separated from our emotions or our mind, which is why self-mastery always needs to entail, the commanding, the mastering of our thoughts and the constructs that we form, and our emotions. Yeah, they are intrinsically hardwired. Body, emotion, and mind, they're hardwired. The spiritual can be hardwired, but is not per design. So some people that have extremely, say, strong religious programming, the spiritual becomes part of that body, mind, emotion hardwire. Most of us here have already liberated ourselves from this, maybe carry just a few sort of karmic elements of that. Yeah, but you know, this hardwired problem that many of us have, yeah, where we experience physical problems that are not actually rooted in the physical, but that need to be addressed in the emotional or in the mental, or all of them, you know, all of the above, or the spiritual. Yeah, that is something that comes through discernment, comes through this active, this choice to actively work on this. So ultimately, at the end of the day, we need to address all of them, because that's the only way for us to harmonize our life and the different life areas. So the part here that is really important, oops, I'm running out of power here, okay. That is very important for us to recognize is that unconscious choices are unknown intentions or desires that were expressed without discernment. So they are the unknowns, they're the things that we don't know. And to make you to make your unconscious choices more conscious, your inner connection, healing, and active self-transformation work become your roadmap. So Janet, if you experience physical issues and you also recognize the presence of trauma in almost all cases has somatic effects, you know this has effects onto your body. And the higher the trauma load, the stronger the effect on the physical body. Yeah, that needs to be addressed together. That's your roadmap. And this is where my comment from earlier, where I said that trauma leads to sort of a forced self-transformation, forced self-mastery. Yeah, so the stronger the trauma, the more apparent it becomes that we cannot just live an unconscious life. Yeah, we're forced to actively step into healing, any kind of healing for that matter. Yeah. Keep sharing, guys. Yeah, I need to change something with my power plugs here. What are some of these unconscious choices, these unknown intentions that have ruled your life, or that you have found out that have ruled your life, other than, well, the way you see yourself, so identity issues, or, you know, the necessity to take care of some fundamental needs like physical, emotional, mental healing? What are some of the things that are common for us to experience as a contradiction on our journey?
Needing approval from people that could never give it to me in situations that were out of my control.
Yeah, so this goes along with what you said earlier, Sean. This has to do with identity. Yeah, validation always has to do with identity, and also slightly sort of mixed in is attachment. Yeah, the solution to that is, again, the same thing that I said earlier, is to let go of trying to get a validation from people who will never be able to validate you because they have different values. Yeah? So validating comes from values. Okay, so you will only be you can only feel validated by people who have the same values as you. If they have different values, you will never feel validated.
Wow, makes so much sense.
That's the simplicity there.
Wow. It just clears up so much that I've been clearing. It's just so congruent right now. Thank you.
You're welcome. What about our inner child stuff, guys? I mean, this what Sean just shared with us. Identity issues usually come from inner child issues, like unresolved stuff there. We have things that have to do with our parents, how we were raised, and so forth. Who has encountered severe inner child issues on their journey? Or anything else for that matter? Go ahead.
Well, if nobody else wants to turn, one other thing I came up with my own self recently, but after many years of, I reviewed kind of my life overall, but what was kind of the pinnacles of what I was reviewing were my injuries. What sort of injuries I've had through life, not, emotional injuries, which is, another interesting topic, but my physical injuries. And I was like, wait, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And then I talked to some people, and they're like, oh yeah, that never happened. I've never had that happen. I'm like, what? You didn't, like.
There can be stark karmic components to our physical injuries.
I see, because I decided, it was literally that just in this year, I was like, I'd like to make decisions. I made a statement. I'd like to make decisions and live in a life that's going to reduce these physical
What have you discovered there?
I feel that it's put more space. I mean, yeah,
No,
more
what's
space.
the unusual part about those physical injuries? Have you discovered like patterns there, or?
I think it has. All I could say at
Give us
this
an
moment.
example. That's what I mean. Give us an example, because
Well,
I mean.
like I nearly drowned as a child. I had a
Okay.
concussion. I have, hurt my finger enough. My fingernail is still, as a child, deformed. I broke my hand as a child. I've fallen off over a horse in my adult life. I broke my hand. Not many other broken bones.
But
I have,
accidents? Would you say accidents
yeah, I
primarily?
mean, I've had at least 2 car accidents in my life. Yeah, they would be considered accidents overall. Not really in line, not like somebody hitting me with a, well, you- not like somebody intentionally hurting me. So
Right.
yeah,
So
injuries from that.
okay. So this is very interesting, and some of you may have discovered this too. Actually, I have that too. The injuries that I have, with one exception, and that is wear and tear from years of marathon running and martial arts. But the scars and the real injuries that I have, not the wear and tear, but the real injuries I have, they are all kind of accident based. That is a sign that you're not fully present in your body. Okay, that you're not fully inhabiting your body.
Yeah.
This can be a spiritual aspect. This can also be something that just has to do with like attention deficit. Yeah, like not really paying attention, not really being grounded enough. Yeah, so that's can be a spiritual or an energetic problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
not being fully in your body. Yeah, here you can see how that is, it's energetic of nature.
Yeah.
Thank you, Janet. Cindy is sharing here in the text. Well, yeah, one big insight, most importantly, what she found out is that she didn't even know she had choices. This is a spiritual problem. It forms from a preset belief, that you just have to follow. You just have to. I mean, nobody ever tells you that you have a choice, or whatever reinforcement you get through, whatever the values are that surround you. Yeah, this has to do with a lack of self-awareness. Yeah, because recognizing that we have a choice, that can come out of ourselves. You don't have to have someone telling you that you have a choice. Obviously, as a child, you don't have a choice. But latest, when you're like, I don't know, 16, 17, 18, that kicks in, where you realize, oh, wait, I don't have to do this. Yeah. But this can be overridden or superseded by spiritual beliefs, yeah, by mindsets, by unconscious mindsets. Another aspect that Cindy's bringing in here, and Cindy, you feel free to share, it's always easier to do this in a dialogue, is codependency. So codependency, guys, is an addictive form of relationship seeking. Yeah, it's basically the unconscious version here of, our passion to connect. Yeah, and it comes with the, some of these things that we've already mentioned, sort of a people pleasing and self-sacrifice in some cases, and the constant need for validation. Yeah, so it's a mixture here of 2 and 3. Yeah, because behind codependency it is a belief that goes something like, I cannot be happy on my own, or I cannot really enjoy my life if I'm alone. So behind codependency is a strong fear of loneliness, yeah, of not being part of something, yeah, which then leads the person to make choices that are going against their own good. And that's considered to be addictive behavior, because codependency is such a strong behavior pattern. Yeah, those of you who have identified that you have codependency tendencies, it really weaves through all relationships, and even relationships with your pets and your car and your dishwasher. Yeah, there's this fundamental deficiency of self-love that is not being able to be fulfilled from within. So self-love is not possible for that person, and therefore the person unconsciously chooses to replace it with external love, and that can lead to anything. That can go really, really far. So this is a very big one. Codependency can create very, very fundamental overrides of our better intentions. So I mentioned earlier that there is a short and a long way to master your life and find fulfillment, meaning, and purpose in life. So the unconscious choices, they create karma, create repetition, if you will. And again, how does repetition serve us? Well, it serves us as a learning experience. So let's take any kind of painful experience. A karmic aspect in your life would be a painful experience that is repetitive. Yeah, where you can replace the people, you can replace the work, you can replace the place that you live in. Yeah, you name it. You can replace everything and you'll still end up in that same pain. That is a sure sign that you are having a karmic experience, and that there is something there that you're not seeing. It's unconscious. So making unconscious choices, that's basically the long way to get to happiness and higher expression. Because karma will take care of the lack of awareness, of the lack of consciousness. It will present you with learning experiences over and over and over again until you get it. Until you finally overcome whatever's in the way of you following through with your higher intention, which unfortunately sometimes means, sudden accidents, diseases, loss of money, loss of your home, loss of your family, loss of, you name it, anything that can create pain. The short way, as I mentioned earlier, is the active choice to take charge of your life. So conscious choices, as opposed to unconscious choices, they determine karma. Do you guys see the difference? Unconscious choices, the unconscious, creates karma. Conscious choices determines karma. In other words, when you make conscious choices, you actually determine your own destiny. And not only that, you're also able to break free from pre-existing karma because you recognize the pattern, you see it. Now, all these things that we discussed here, you see them and you say to yourself, do I really want to keep experiencing the same repeat over and over? Do I really want this? I mean, I have the choice, I can, but it should be a conscious choice. Or do I want my life to be different? Have I had enough? Have I had enough yet? Or do I want to wait until I can't take the pain anymore? It's up to us. What's important here is to recognize that when we get to this place, has anybody ever been in a place where you saw it coming? I mean, it was painful experience in whatever way, over and over and over again, and you literally saw it coming. You knew that this wasn't going to be sustainable. At some point, you wouldn't be able to take it anymore. You'd explode. You'd say enough, and you'd finally go through whatever it was that you were trying to avoid previously, even though you knew that one day you're going to have to break free from this, be it in regards to addiction, substances, or relationships, or jobs, or financial decisions. Oh, Cindy is just laughing, haha. Is that a yes? I take that as a yes. Yeah. So Cindy's the only person here in this group who has recognized that there are things in life that when they keep repeating, that you can see how they're not sustainable, how this isn't good for you, but you're still doing it until, well, the pain of staying there gets so bad that you really don't have a choice anymore. Nobody ever been in a situation like this? I have many times. Trying to outsmart karma. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we do, guys. And that is what creates more karma. Okay. This doesn't mean that, some of our trauma, some of our hardships, are tremendous. They're, really, out of this world. And nobody chooses to be traumatized, to be, I don't want to go graphic here, but you know what I mean. Nobody chooses that. But when you have that in your life, it means that there's something bigger there that keeps driving you into this. And I can tell you, as someone who does this professionally, it culminates with people. Yeah, so one drama after the other, that is not how life is supposed to be. Something isn't going right. And that is the lack of your consciousness. You're not consciously participating in your life. Yeah. So these barriers that we've talked about, and that then ultimately become the roadmap for our self-transformation. Here you can see this in a little more detailed way. We've went through this a couple months ago and kept coming back to this because, it really affects all these different hierarchy of needs and levels of self-awareness. So here, pay attention to the gray. Yeah. On a physical level, it's our unawareness that blocks our self-transformation and with it our higher expression. On an emotional, it's our projections, the delusions that we have, the stories, the narratives that we tell ourselves. On a mental level, it's the mind control, is where we have unreflected thinking, where we believe that we're thinking for ourselves, but we really aren't. And our thoughts aren't really our own. On a spiritual level, it's the autopilot that we do. It's like, the habits, the ceremonies, the rituals, the things that, sort of we align ourselves to without being conscious of what we're aligning ourselves to. And on an energetic, it's done about the conscious alignment, like realizing what the energetic quality is of our choices, of our surroundings, that's where the word conducive comes in. Like, am I aligning myself to something that is actually conducive for me, that is expansive for me, that gives me more options? Or am I aligning myself to something that restricts my options, that degrades my life force, that, limits my options? That is, and what we can learn from that. A lot of us have really good intentions and work on these things diligently. Obviously, autopilot is sometimes hard to see, mind control is hard to see, and our own projections are hard to see. And it's very hard to be aware of what we're unaware of. These things all have to be practiced. But it is then, when we realize how most of our choices, or, not necessarily most, but let's say the big choices in our lives, are actually unconscious, and how they aligned us to things that are not sustainable for us, that are degrading for us, that are, like John, what you discovered, trying to be validated by people who have different values. Well, they can't validate you. It's logic. It's that simple. That's where the energetic perspective can really help us to uncover some of those like kind of doors.
Jona, like with that, it years and years, even within my spiritual studies and everything like that, my wanting to be connected and understand my intuition and all of that was there, but within that I was still carrying the programming of not you talk about expansiveness and making higher choices, but that was so overridden by what Sean is, like us being validated by the outside, looking, people pleasing rather than the expansion of our spirits. And it was like, it's only recent years that I'm like, oh, I want a better life. Maybe it's programmed that I didn't deserve really a good life.
Yeah, and you got to understand that this is part of the autopilot. It's like how we are, as sort of, like, say spiritual infants enter this life. Okay, we have to go by all these external things first. It's a big part of our maturing process. So we all come into this world by orienting ourselves on external beliefs, external things. Okay. And it is then, roughly around, 21, 22, where we start realizing, oh, I can do my own stuff. And then we go out and do trial and error. And then it's around the age of 29 when we realize, oh, some of the things are kind of good and some of them are not. So maybe I need to do, some work here. Maybe I need to do some correction. And that's when it's supposed to set in. It's not really, from a consciousness development standpoint, supposed to kick in prior to that. But at this critical age of 29, what happens there if we experience a lot of trauma in that stage, and for a lot of women, it's also the age where they have children, that kind of distracts or defers some of that maturing process. It can become a little harder. It can be delayed, or people can get stuck there. But it is then in the course of our life that we recognize these patterns, that we begin to see that. So we all, and it's very important that you understand this, we all come into this life with this external roadmap first. And as we mature, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, these roadmaps become more and more internal. Unless, and that is basically, you know, the big contradiction in us, unless we choose to just go with the flow, just go with, you know, what's politically correct or what's conformist. That is a choice too, and that's okay. There's no judgment in that. But it does not promote self-transformation. It does not promote you feeling anything like meaning and purpose and fulfillment in life. So following those pre-programmed autopilot programs cannot lead us to fulfillment and happiness. It cannot. And that's the big aha. That's when we have to realize, oh, all the stuff that our ego tells us and that we're like believed to be true. And yes, Gorsha, you're sharing something super, super important that I know a lot of you guys have had, is that, you know, you believed deep down in you believed that you deserve all the pain. Where do you think that's coming from? That's not you believing it deep down. That is something that you were told probably at a very, very early age. Yes, that if you have pain in your life, it's because you did something bad. It's a very externalized way of seeing life altogether. Did you want to share? You just raised your hand. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, yes,
Go
yes.
ahead. Yeah.
I don't think that anymore. It's just in the past I used to think that. Lately, I've noticed, you know, like, of course, I made some choices in the past, and I think I can actually go back to some of them and really see what the intention was. And now I see how it was actually not so, the energetic quality of that intention maybe was lower, but at that time, like, I wouldn't even know better.
No,
You know.
exactly. This is self-healing. Yeah, this is self-transformation, what you just said. You realize that at the time you couldn't see this yet. Okay. So the choices that you made at the time, they were based on, well, what you could do, what you could see, what you could choose at the time. And that's how we then move into forgiveness and transcend this whole concept of, oh, I made a bad choice and now I deserve to be punished for it. Okay, that's a pre-programmed belief. Yeah, that what we experience in our life as pain is some kind of punishment. When we make more conscious choices, then we can also see how, say, not so good choices in the past, yeah, they had to be made, how they were actually important, how we had to make them to arrive at the level of consciousness we have today. If I would have not made all these bad choices in the past, I would have never felt the necessity to investigate my choices. Yeah.
But that I feel like, yeah, that's really important to make all the choices, like, be aware of the choice, even though
Yes.
we don't know any better, or just being aware, because later on we can reflect and evaluate, and I'm like, we still manifesting. I still manifested that.
Yes. And I like how you just said that. You know, we become basically aware that every choice is a choice. Yeah. And that, you know, the level of consciousness that we have, yeah, that it determines our choices. The only problem that we will continue to encounter is when our consciousness is there and we're not aligning our choices to it. That's when we are contradicting ourselves. And that's one of the, you know, actually the worst parts about, you know, like wasting our energy. So there is a naivete, say, and there's sort of a lack of maturity that excuses some of our, say, unhealthier choices in the past. Yeah, so you know what I mean? Like, what did we know with 18? Nothing. But we thought we knew it all, right? So most of our choices were pretty limited at the time. And we can look back and we can say, yeah, that was sort of the naivete that we had, at that young age. But then the older we, the more we, experience in life, yeah, and the more consciousness we develop, the higher the stakes. So in hindsight, it's okay to forgive ourselves for bad choices that we made in the past because we couldn't know it. But we have to investigate why we couldn't see it. And that has to do with our ego. That has to do with our payoff. That's where the Sacred Self-Healing Program comes in, because it trains that in your awareness to look at like, wait. Why could I not see it? Oh, because I had all these projections. I wanted this or I desired that more than say inner peace or happiness. So what was my, it's not enough to just forgive ourselves for our past choices. It's also important to understand and reflect on the energetic quality of it, the alignment of it. Well, what was it then aligned to? If it was not aligned to my higher expression, what was it aligned to?
Yes, I really like, I don't know, you shared that with us. I don't know if it was a daily empowered message or the December forecast, when you shared that you made a choice to, you made a promise to yourself that you're not gonna make like this toxic relationship a part of you anymore. And for me, it was thank you for that sharing so much, because I felt like I had a conversation with my heart, actually, like because sometimes when the heart is way too open, and then I can see when I actually allow that toxicity. And I kind of had a conversation with my heart when I felt like when I was talking to my heart, like I would talk to another person, because I would talk again, codependency. Like I would tell someone else's needs before my needs. So I was talking to my heart, like, I love you so much. I'm making a promise to you.
But this is something that you chose to do, Gosha. Yeah, you see, this comes out of your insight now, out of your consciousness. This is a conscious choice to do that. To doing that is extremely healing. It's beautiful, because really what you're addressing here is the lack of self-love that is underneath all codependency. So I'm zooming through these things because it's way too mental and doesn't actually help us here.
Okay.
But I was referring to the slides. This is really important what you just said. Due to the power of your consciousness, you had your own insight, namely that is missing. Yeah, and you are now consciously stepping into that place where you are providing yourself with that which you were unconsciously trying to get from others. It was actually something that you needed to give yourself first. And that's in the case of codependency, yeah, the key to healing it. And then all the other choices, such as, having better mate selection, having better, like picking the better relationship partners, picking better jobs, picking better groups or whatever, that then comes automatically. You no longer have to like sit there and analyze everything. You just got to stay true to that you've, found through your own self-transformation. You can own that. You can say, okay, I've identified myself as someone who has codependent tendencies, who, will tend to give others what I need to give myself, what I do not allow myself to give myself. And therefore, I just need to keep that in mind, that my choices may be overridden by that. So you put in one extra check with all your choices. Am I making this decision based on, some of my codependent tendencies? Or am I making this decision because it really feels true to me? Yeah, so you learn to work with these parts that can override your conscious choices and include them instead of fighting against them. That's the trick. You work with them. It's the same with inner child. It's the same with trauma. Yeah, if you have trauma and a certain smell or a certain place or certain types of people, bring you out of balance, but then stop exposing yourself to it. Yeah, walk out. Don't go there because it makes it harder for you. Yeah, if you have, child issues, that have to do with, I don't know, absent parent or, things that you've experienced as, adverse child experiences, something like, I don't know, your parents always fighting or, physical violence or something like that. Well, then let that flow into your choices. Don't, put yourself into a place where you have that kind of exposure. Yeah, it makes it harder for you. So really what I want to say is that once we recognize that all these hardships, all the things that make it harder for us to make good choices, yeah, that they're not something that we need to fight against. They're something that we need to invite in and work with them. And here comes a big sort of conclusion. We cannot separate one from the other. We cannot. Yeah, so when people come to me for energy coaching or coaching altogether, and they say, "Oh yeah, I'm okay everywhere. I just have relationship issues," or, "Oh no, I don't want to talk about anything in my life. I just want to talk about my spiritual evolvement." I already know what the problem is, because there is no separation between these things in our life. Career, finance, health, our social life, our home, how we feel, where we feel like we belong, our love, not just our romantic relationships, anything that has to do with love and caring and, expressing that. Our freedom to make choices, to travel, blah, 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 to have the things in life, the way we contribute, the way we show up for others, our spirituality, and the way we see ourselves, our identity and self-image. Those are all things, they all go together. And when I have people do this self-mastery wheel, yeah, where I asked them to grade, from a scale 0 to 10, what their satisfaction level is in these different areas of life. The more asymmetrical the, the figure, the geometrical shape is, yeah, the more imbalanced the person is. And that means that, you can use this as a tool for self-transformation, because where you have the sort of the biggest dent, yeah, that's where you have to start. And that's usually the very area in life that people want to exclude. Yeah, because the ego doesn't want to look at the part that it already knows is the problem, but it doesn't want to look at that. It doesn't want to work with that. So you see, really everything that I say has the same tenor here. It's about inviting those things in and choosing to consciously work with them. Without our spiritual soul perspective, it is difficult to discern and bring about lasting happiness into our lives, because it is the spiritual soul perspective that allows us to see the bigger picture, to see ourselves in a more holistic way, yeah, to see all the areas of our lives. We all came here to transform, heal, and improve a unique rendering of life and soul power. And here comes the transCODES tagline: in everything transforms, everything is connected, everything can change, everything can heal. That is a message of hope, guys, because ultimately everything is just energy. The physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, and anything in regards to consciousness. It's not caused by energy, but it is a form of energy. Someone said this earlier, I think, Jona, was you. You said something about a field that is created. Yes, that's exactly it. It's a resonance that is created through our choices. And if we don't pay attention to this field that we are creating, if we, just conform, if we just sort of blindly follow, other people's fields or the collective field, well, then we are not in the power of making choices. So it requires us to pay attention to these, what we call resonances that we have. Yeah? People who keep running into abusive relationships. Anybody here who has, sort of a track record of toxic or abusive or narcissistic relationships in their life? Anybody? You need to ask yourself, why are you attracted by this type of person?
Because it reminded me of my father, and I wanted to get close to him no matter what the consequence was. And until I stopped that very recently, within all my fields, it didn't want to change. And so the back and forth was still showing up until I said, no more. It's not worth it. There's nothing to gain.
No, because
not worth it.
The archetype of your father has not led to what you wanted.
Jesus, no. Because he just did whatever he wanted because he thought he could, and that made me do nothing.
Right. So as a child, it's kind of, for the first 20, 25 years, it's kind of normal, to follow, these unconscious things that we've learned as child. But then eventually we're going to have to consciously look at it and say, wait, this isn't a successful concept here. Yeah, I never got it from my father. Why do I keep looking for the same types, the same archetypes? All that really does is repeating the disappointment and the pain that I've experienced with my father over and over and over again. I need to stop looking for the same thing that has already proven not to work for me.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, that's how, I know it sometimes sounds a bit simple or simplistic when I say it this way.
No.
But it is important to remind ourselves that some of these things, they're really sort of, I want to say common sense. It's just that we never really allow ourselves to think that way. So holistic transformation, guys, is the self-transformation that is the active choice. The active choice to bring out, express, and embody our conscious choice. So here's choice twice. And that's the recursive element of that. We have to choose to make active choices with conscious choices. So this is where I typically start, and this journey with a client, is like, what is your conscious choice? Do you want to change that? That's a conscious choice. So first you have to choose to wanting to transform or change or heal something, and then you take all your choices and investigate whether they're leading you to that. And that's why, this self-transformation process, and if you use energy coaching, for example, as a tool for that, why this is a longer process, because you have to unravel all these different choices that you're making on all these different levels to a point where you then become so trained in that you can do it yourself. So everything I teach, everything I do is based on, my clients or you, eventually not needing me anymore. Yeah, I'm teaching you the tools to do this yourself. But I'm also aware that it takes years and years of practice, because we have to undo all the pre-programming that we have. Yeah, the goal is then basically to manifest a higher vibratory version, the higher expression, a higher potential of ourselves into this world. So, it is the constant striving for higher expression. This is where the New Age and some of the spiritual programming is very counterproductive, because it kind of gives people the idea that if they understand certain spiritual concepts, that they have done the work. And that is not the case. The mind alone cannot do that. This isn't about understanding those concepts. It can help to understand concepts, spiritual concepts, but that's not where the work is. The work is to express them and embody them. Yeah, and that's that part that takes the longest. And here those self-mastery practices that we've illuminated in the previous workshops. Yeah, gaining control of your thinking, check. Gaining control of your will. That is something that we're working on right now because it entails all the others. Yeah, gaining control of our expressions, the expression of our feelings and communication, how to discern things. Yeah, and then the expression of our intention, yeah, to seek positivity, truth, the good and the beauty in every situation, the learning, yeah, and to stay open-minded and to practice neutrality with ourselves and others. That is then ultimately what leads to us mastering our will, yeah, our choices. But the true embodiment, guys, that doesn't happen until we actually go out and bring this into the world. And this is where I'm incredibly proud of all of you, because that's something that you've intuitively felt when, for example, when you chose to join the Sacred Self-Healing community, because here it's all about that. Yeah, it's not enough to just sit there on your own and think things through and read 100 million books and go to, retreats and, do plant medicines and do all that. No, this journey of embodiment cannot be done by yourself within yourself as solitary being. At some point in your self-transformation journey, you come to that place where you realize that it is in the expression and in actually bringing this out into the world, not as like, you don't have to be a YouTuber or a teacher or anything, but the expression in all your relationships and all your choices and everything that you do. That is the one that brings fulfillment and lasting happiness. And for that, we need the interaction with others. We need the sharing. Yeah, and that's when we realize what the true template in us actually is all about, and how evolution of consciousness, evolution of the mind, of the emotions, of the body, and so forth, how that can only happen if we see the bigger picture, if we understand that it is basically a communal task, a collective task. But before we can do this in unity with others, we have to do the self-transformation work. We have to awaken as an individualized soul self first. Yeah, and then we can go, this is what all this work is about. This is what the daily empowerment is about. This is what the love integrity course is about, where we transpose this into our relationships. How can we conduct, higher quality of relationships, make better choices in relationships? How can we build this within the relationship, or, if we're single or a couple, doesn't matter. Yeah, and the Sacred Self-Healing course that is now going to be online finally, yeah, as an online course that everybody can do on their own, and where we then continue to come together here as community with the online meditations, the workshops, and all the specials that is where it happens, guys. So we need to come to a close, and I wanted to let you all know that the big healing and self-transformation work that carries the Sacred Self-Healing Program is done by you coming to these workshops, by you asking questions, by you sharing, by you going to the online meditations on Skype and engaging with others. That is where it happens. That is the work, guys. Okay. I just provide the platform and, personal, coaching, personalized coaching or group coaching, depending on what a person can afford. So this being the last workshop here for 2022, and before we move into this membership-based platform, I want to thank all of you for being so wonderful participants and, you know, willing to share with everybody. Yeah, that has helped so many, including yourself. This is the work, guys. Yeah. And I'm wishing you wonderful holidays. I hope that you have a good transition into the new year. Obviously, I'm still in the middle of the daily empowerment world, so to speak. And with those of you who are heart warriors or have were part of the ongoing training club, then we have the beautiful Path Self Transmission tomorrow. These sessions, they are ongoing, guys. This never ends. It's a constant striving, yeah, for becoming more conscious of our thinking, our emoting, our embodying. So I wish you a wonderful continued self-transformation and self-healing journey. And I see you again in the new year. Thank you all for coming and sharing your life.